Hello knitters, Barbara Benson here. I'm an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. If you would like to know more about my knitwear design, please check in the description below, and there you'll find a link to my Ravelry page where you can see pictures of all of the patterns I have available for you to purchase and knit for yourself. Also in the description below, you will find a link to the Watch Barbara Knit Facebook group. It is a closed group, but if you request membership, I'll be happy to approve you, and it is a place where we can continue to the conversations and talk about the topics that we have started here on Watch Barbara Knit. And of course, I'm always happy to talk to you in the comments below the video. So please, if you have any thoughts or questions or just silliness, please comment in the description comments below. Now, I said description because I'm thinking about the description because you're definitely going to want to check it out today because we have another stitch by stitch shawl for you today, and this one's kind of exciting and a little bit different. It is slightly more complex than the ones that we have done previously, so I'm having to break this one up into two sections, and it's logical because what this is and what we are making is a tiny shawl, a side-to-side triangle. Now, the thing about side-to-side triangles is that they are really fantastic for using up the exact amount of yarn that you have. The cast on is here, and you have a setup and then an increase pattern where you increase and increase and increase. And then once you've used a little less than half of your yarn, you then swap over to doing a decrease pattern. So this first video is the setup in the increase pattern, and you increase and increase. And then the second video is going to be the decrease pattern and how to finish it. Isn't it super cute? I did a simple texture. You definitely are going to need to block this one because it pulls a little bit. It's a little bit like a ribbing, but you definitely are going to want to block this. This is in the Fiber Seed Sprout fingering. This is called Arizona Dusk, and I think it is just gorgeous. But you can knit up this shawl and any yarn you want and any yarn weight you want. What you're going to have to do is select a yarn and then select a needle size that's going to give you a good drape. You're going to have to swatch. I would recommend swatching. Of course, you could just cast on in the beginning of the shawl should be your swatch. But to get a good drape for a shawl, what I would recommend is going up a needle or two from whatever is recommended on your yarn. So this is fingering weight, and I knit it on a 5. If you're going to want to do worsted weight, you might want to try an 8 or even a 9 to get you a drape because it's a shawl and you want it to drape around you. Now, another thing that's going to be very useful for you, and I want to show you mine, is my tiny scale. I ordered this online. It measures down into grams, but this is a wonderful tool to have in your knitting arsenal, and it's just for weighing yarn. So when you do this shawl, what you're going to want to do is take however much yarn you have, and you weigh it in grams, okay? You want grammage. You got lots of little dots. This is not going to do anything because I'm holding it up and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. So you want to weigh it in grams and then write that down on your pattern or make a note of it. And what you're going to do for this shawl is you knit until you've, by weight, you've slightly less than. You don't want to use exactly 50%. You want to stop at like maybe 45, 48. You just use, because you don't want to get to the end and like have run out. So use a little bit less than half your yarn to do the setup and the increase section. And then the next video will talk about the decrease section and the finishing. Another easy way to size this would be if you had 2 equal size skeins. I mean, one skein up, the other skein down. And so that is what we are making today. And the following is the step-by-step instructions on how to do that. We are going to start by casting on 3 stitches. I'm going to use the long tail cast on just because it's easy. You want to use a stable cast on, but you can use your preferred one. It's just 3 stitches. So you make your slip knot and you slide it on, and then we're going to cast on that. This first one counts as 1, and then we're going to under, over, that's 2, under, over, 3. Woohoo! Big ol' 3 stitches we just cast on. We're going to position ourselves for knitting. And the first setup row, now this has a little bit of a setup, 8 rows in total, but they're fairly fast. So row 1 is knit 1, then knit front back. So you insert your needle into this front loop right here, knitwise, and knit into it, pull a stitch through, but do not drop this stitch off your left hand needle. You then rotate and insert your needle through the back loop and pull through another stitch. And so that is knit front back. And what that means is you knit into the front and the back of the same loop. Super easy. And then we're going to move the yarn to the front and slip this last stitch to make a nice selvage. We've gone from 3 stitches to 4 whole stitches. That was the right side. We're going to flip over to the wrong side, and we are going to knit 3. 1, 2, 3. Move the yarn to front and slip that last stitch purlwise. We're going to do that with the last stitch of every row. And we still have 4 stitches because there were no increases. This pattern increases 1 stitch every right side row. Now, those were rows 1 and 2. Row 3, we're going to knit to the last 2 stitches, which in this context is knitting a grand total of 2. And then we're going to increase again, which is knit front. It's a little bit hard to do on camera. Knit back. What did I do? Oh, something weird. Something happened weird. So I was trying to knit front back and I accidentally slipped that stitch off the left hand needle. So I'll just put it back on and do this again. Knit front, knit back. It's really not a hard stitch, but it's hard to do away from my body. And then move the yarn to front and slip that last stitch. There we go. Now we are up to 5 stitches. That increased by 1. And here we have row 4, which we simply knit to the last 3 stitches, which is going to be knitting a total of 2 stitches here. 1, 2. Here we have our last 3 stitches. For our last 3 stitches, we're going to purl 1, knit 1, move the yarn to front, and slip 1. Okay, are we still at 5 stitches? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So that was rows 3 and 4. Now, we are going to repeat rows 3 and 4 twice. So, row 3 is knit to last 2 stitches. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to knit front back. I'm going to do this slow again so you guys can see it. So you insert your needle knitwise into that front stitch and then roll it over and knit into that back stitch. You can see I use my helper finger a lot to make sure it doesn't slide anywhere. So we've increased. Move this yarn to front and slip that last stitch. We are up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 whole stitches. Now we're going to repeat row 4, which is knit to last 3 stitches and then purl, knit, slip. So we're going to knit 3, 1. First we're going to split that yarn. 1, 2, 3, purl 1, knit 1, yarn in front, slip 1. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Still at 6. Now we are going to repeat rows 3 and 4 one more time. until we have a total of 7 stitches. So row 3 is knit to last 2 stitches. 1, 2, so that's 4 this time. Should probably knit that one, and then we're going to knit front back. So by the time you are finished with this pattern, you are going to be the king or queen of knit front back. Knit through the front loop, knit through the back loop. There you go. Move your yarn to front, slip that stitch. Where are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is how many stitches we need, but we got to be on the right side row. So we have to repeat row 4 one more time, which is knit to last 3 stitches. So this time we're going to knit 1, 2, 3, 4 before doing the end stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to purl 1, knit 1, slip 1 with the yarn in front. There we go. This is the tiny little beginning of our shawl. That was our setup. So a total of 8 rows, super fast. Tiny, tiny, tiny baby triangle. Now, the actual shawl increase pattern, which we are just going to repeat for an extended period, is only 6 rows long. So we're going to show you those 6 rows. And all of the odd rows, so all of the right side rows, are exactly the same. It is knit to the last 2 stitches, knit front back, slip 1 with yarn in front. So this right side is super easy. 1, we don't even have to count. We're just knitting to the last 2 stitches until there are only 2 stitches left on your needle. In that second to the last stitch, we're going to knit front and then knit back. And we move the yarn to front, slip that stitch. Now, the wrong side is where this gets interesting. Oop. Oh, that was my yarn bow. Did you hear it ding? Wa-ding! So, that was row 1 of the increase repeat. Now we're on row 2. So row 2 is knit 2. Let me get that cable out of the way. Knit 2, knit 1, knit 2, and then we are going to purl 1, knit 2, and repeat that purl 1, knit 2 pattern to the last 3 stitches. Now, you will notice we're only going to get to repeat it once this first time. So we're going to purl 1, knit 2, and now we are already to the last 3 stitches, which are going to be purl 1, knit 1, slip 1 with yarn in front. That finishes row 2 of the shawl increase section. Now we're going to go to row 3, which is exactly the same as row 1. So we're going to knit to the last 2 stitches, and then knit front back if our needles will let us. Move the yarn to front, slip that last stitch. We've increased by 1 stitch. Now we're going to do row 4. Row 4 is different than row 2. This time we're going to knit 3. 1, 2, 3 before we start our purl 1, knit 2 to the last 3 stitches. And again, we only have 1 repeat right now, so it's purl 1, knit 2. We are at our last 3 stitches, so we're going to purl 1, knit 1, slip 1 with yarn in front. Okay, that was row 4. And as you can see, we're establishing, see there's this here is a row of knit stitches, a column if you will, and then there's a garter space, and then there's another column of knit stitches, and that's what we're establishing with this pattern. So row 5 is identical to rows 1 and 3, so knit to the last 2 stitches, then we're going to knit front back, knit into the front, knit into the back. That's increase by 1, move the yarn to front, slip that last stitch, right? And now this is the last row of the repeat, row 6, which is knit 4. So we're going to knit 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have our purl 1, knit 2, repeat to the last 3 stitches. So we're going to purl 1, knit 2, and here we are at our last 3 stitches, purl 1, knit 1, slip 1 with yarn in front. There we go. So that is the whole first half of the pattern. You can see that we're establishing these little columns, and I'm going to do row 1 of the shawl increase one more time so that you can see what multiple repeats look like. Again, the same exact knit to the last 2 stitches, knit front back, slip that last stitch. That was row 1 again, and now we're going to go to row 2, which is knit 2, then purl 1, knit 2 to the last 3 stitches. So we're going to knit 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to purl 1, knit 2 to the last 3 stitches, which will give us 2 repeats. Purl 1, knit 2, so we've repeated that twice, and we're at the last 3 stitches, so it's purl 1, knit 1, slip 1 with yarn in front. And you can see with our little tiny shawl that we have just started. You can't really see it yet, but this is going to be the beginning of the next column of knit. Now, the way this is going to work is that you are going to knit this until you've used a little bit less than half the amount of yarn you have, and then you will start the decrease section, which will be in video number 2 because this one is already long enough. But I did want to mention that if you just wanted to continue in this shaping, oh, there goes my bowl again. If you just wanted to continue in this shaping and just keep increasing and increasing, you would end up with a little tiny shawl, a shawl shaped like this, with the columns going on a diagonal, which is kind of cool. Now, let me show you. This is what our final side-to-side shawl is going to look like. If you can see, isn't it cool? It's so pretty. This is Fiber Seed Sprout in Arizona Dusk, I think. I will make sure I have it down. But what we've just completed is this increase section. You increase and increase and increase, and then you start decreasing and decreasing. And the decrease video will be video number 2. But were you to just continue to increase, what you'd end up with is a shawl. Here, let me fold it. Here we go. I'm going to fold him like that. A shawl that looked like that. How cool is that? There you go. That is how to make this tiny. Now, I thought it was kind of fun. And again, if you don't want to wait for the next video, you just keep on going in the increase, and eventually you'll have more of an asymmetrical, and you do I would use the expandable lace bind off that I've talked about before, but you want to do, it doesn't have to be crazy stretchy, but you just bind off that edge and you are good to go. And then you'll have a shawl that runs like this, right? So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click that like button. And if you would like to be notified whenever I upload a new video, please subscribe to my channel and select notifications. And don't forget to watch for part 2 of this video. Thank you so much.